welcome back to another video. Today I'm back with my Championship 2025-26 table predictions. So it's a couple of days before the season starts. I do this every year, so I'm going to be doing it again. This time is for the 2025-26 Championship season, so I'm going to work my way up from 24th all the way up to first place. And starting off in 24th, I'm going to go with Sheffield Wednesday. They've had a lot of financial struggles recently, a lot of issues with their players. So, I think it's just inevitable that they're going to go down. I know a lot of people think the same. They could surprise everyone and turn it around and actually survive and, maybe have a decent season. But, I highly doubt they're going to be going for playoffs or promotion or anything like that. So, unfortunately for them, I can see Sheffield Wednesday finishing rock bottom in 24th. In 23rd place, I'm going to go with Charlton Athletic. I just don't think they have the quality of some other teams in there. Obviously, Nathan Jones, he is a very passionate manager, but is he good enough at this level? I know he's been here before, but he hasn't really done anything of note in the Championship before. But obviously he's taken Charlton up, and they had a really good season last season. They've got some good players like Kelman and Tyrese Campbell, so they do have some players, some really good players there. But I just don't think they have the quality of some other teams in the division. So for that reason, I'm gonna have to put Charlton 23rd. In 22nd, it may surprise a few people, but I've gone with Preston North End. Last season they were in and around relegation. That they managed to survive in the end, but I just think they do play quite boring football, and they're always a team who never look like they're going to go up, never look like they're going to go down. But I think this year I think they'll really struggle. Obviously they have got Paul Heckingbottom as a manager. He's got some experience obviously with Sheffield United and stuff, but I just feel like as far as their squad goes, they haven't really built too much on last season. So for that reason, I'm going to have to put Preston North End in 22nd. 21st, I'm going to go with Oxford United. Same reasons as Charlton really. I just don't think they really have the quality of some other teams in this division, but I think they'll just about have enough to stay up. They have got a few decent players: Mark Harris, Dembele, Plaqueta. So they have got some players there. But as I said, I just don't think they have the quality of some other players, of some other teams. I think there are other teams in this division who have more quality than them, and I just think for that reason, that's why I'll put them in 21st. In 20th place, I've gone with Hull City. Again, they were in and around there last season, managed to survive. They have signed Lundstrom, and there's heavy links with McBurney, so we'll see what happens there. If they sign them, that they sign McBurney as well as Lundstrom, that's two very, very good and experienced players at this level, and they'll certainly help them out. But I don't know, I just have a feeling that they'll be in and around the same position as they were last season, if I'm honest. So in 20th I've gone with Hull City. 19th then I've gone with Portsmouth. I think they had a pretty good season last season. Obviously they beat us 4-0 at their place when we went there, which was a terrible day. It was New Year's Day. But I think they actually had a pretty good season last season, if I'm being completely honest, considering it was their first one in the Championship. They have got a fairly aging squad. They've got quite a lot of experienced players though, such as Ritchie and Murphy. But again, I just don't think they have as much quality as some other teams in this division. Obviously they have signed Florian Bianchini on a season-long loan from us as well. So I think there is a player in there. He just obviously was out of favour for us. But I think Portsmouth, I'm going to have to go with 19th. 18th then I'm going to go with Stoke. It's the same old story really. I just think, again, they're always a team who are in and around that position. They've really struggled since getting relegated to even get near the playoffs. At a very push top 10, but they've really struggled since getting relegated. Obviously us, West Brom and Stoke, got relegated at the same time. West Brom have been up and down. We've been in and around the playoffs a few seasons, but Stoke have really struggled, and I just I can see it happening again, to be honest. It's a shame because they are a big club, and you know, they deserve to be in the Premier League. They got some decent players, you know, Victor Johansson and Lewis Baker, but I just think all round, I just don't think they have the quality to finish any higher, if I'm honest. 17th place, I've gone with Blackburn Rovers. I think it's going to be a pretty poor season for Blackburn. You know, last season they had a bit of an up and down season, and then obviously they lost their manager John Eustace, who went and signed for you know, a team who were lower down the division at the time. So, you know, that says something. Maybe something was going on in the background of the club, maybe. But I just think their problems from last season will continue. I know they kind of revived it towards the very end of last season, just missing out narrowly on the playoffs. But I just think, you know, last year's problems are gonna you know, carry on into this season. And, you know, as well as that, they have also lost Tyrese Dolan, who was one of their best players last season and has been for the last couple of seasons. So I think, you know, they're going to struggle because he did contribute to a lot last season. So I think he'll be massively missed. 16th place then, I've gone with Queen's Park Rangers. I think, you know, last season they probably had a pretty up and down season, to be completely honest with you. You know, it's one of those teams, you know, a lot of people predict them to get mid-table. A lot of people predict them to be in and around the bottom. And a lot of people predict them to be in and around the playoffs. It's I think, you know, QPR are one of those teams where I feel like anywhere you predict is you know, sort of, you know, it's realistic to say, to be honest, because, you know, you just never know with QPR. But, you know, they have got some decent players, such as Dunn, Michael Fry, Ryan Colley. So, you know, they do have a good team in them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finished higher than 16th. But, you know, in my personal opinion, I think they'll finish 16th. 15th place, I've gone with Derby County. I think they'll have a slightly better season than last season. Obviously, as I said, they've now got John Eustace, and I think, you know, now this being his first full season at Derby, I think he'll definitely have built something in the summer. He has actually signed a few players, you know, Brewster, Carlton Morris. So, you know, the two very good, you know, strikers at this level there, and there's also Kemar Roof and Andreas Weimann. So, you know, up front, they've, you know, probably one of the best in the league in terms of options. You know, we'll have to see how they perform, but in terms of depth there, you know, they've got, you know, probably one of the best in the division, as I said. So, you know, I don't think there'll be too much of a worry in terms of them scoring goals, but it's just, you know, defensively, how good are they going to be throughout the course of the season. 14th place then, I've gone with Bristol City. Obviously made the playoffs last season. Yeah, it was absolutely dreadful from a Bristol City point of view. I can't remember what the score was over the two legs, but I know it was very, very poor. And I don't want to say that it was just a one-off, but I do have a feeling that they'll, you know, after last season, they'll return to sort of finishing mid-table again. You know, it was a very good season for them last season. In all reality, it was a really good season. So, you know, you can't have too many complaints about obviously not going up. I know that the actual performance in the playoffs was disappointing, but I think it was a very good season for them on the whole. But I think they are going to struggle this season to sort of back that up. So, I mean, yeah, for that reason, I'm going to put them in 14th. But they do have some good players, you know, Jason Knight, Scott Twine, McRory as well. So they have got some decent players in there, but I just think they're going to struggle to back it up, as I said. So, yeah, for that reason, I'll put Bristol City in 14th. 13th, I've gone with Watford. Yeah, I mean, they're one of them teams that, you know, for so long, it's a bit like Norwich. You know, they're one of those teams for so long who are so used to going up and down, and then, you know, when that finally breaks, that streak breaks, it is hard then. I think, you know, if you're so used to going up and down, and then there's even just one season where you don't go straight back up, I think, you know, it is hard to then get back up, as we've seen with Norwich, as I said. So, you know, Watford, you know, there was a period where they were going up and down all the time, but I feel like ever since they didn't manage to do that, it's just got harder for them. And I think, you know, as sad as it seems for them, they are probably just a mid-table championship side now, but, you know, they've got some really good players as well. You know, Sissoko's got a lot of experience, Bashiru and Chak Vatadze as well. So, yeah, they've got a lot of really good players, and it wouldn't surprise me if they did finish a little bit higher up, but I just think, yeah, they're sort of a mid-table side now, so I'm going to have to put them in 13th. 12th, I've gone with Wrexham. I think this will be the first season where they don't go up. I think, I think this season is all about just trying to stay in the division. I think they'll do that quite comfortably. I don't think there'll be any concerns of relegation, but I think it'll just be about building and trying to go, maybe 3 to 5 years to try and get into the Premier League. It might be sooner, you never know with the players they're bringing in. But I think that would be very good if they, they finish around about there. They have signed some, good players, experienced players such as Connor Cody, obviously playing for Wolves, Everton, Leicester. He's got a lot of experience, and they've signed Lewis O'Brien as well, who was on loan at us last season. And they have got, a load of other players as well, such as James McLean. They have got a very good squad, to be honest with you. And they've got a good manager as well in Phil Parkinson. So I think, they're going to have a decent season. So for that reason, I'll put Wrexham in 12th. 11th place then, I've gone with Norwich City. Similar reasons to Watford. As I said, I think, when that up and down between the two divisions streak finally ends, I think you do struggle, as we've seen with Norwich. It's been a few seasons now since they've been in the Premier League. I don't think they'll go up this season. I think they'll have a good season. They have got a good squad. Obviously got Josh Sargent, who was very good last season and has been for a while. They got a new manager in Liam Manning, and obviously they got Harry Darling now as well, who, he is a very good centre-back at this level. So I think, they have got a good squad going into the season, and it wouldn't surprise me if they finished higher up. I feel like anyone from sort of 11th, 10th upwards, it wouldn't surprise me if the positions were slightly different to what I've predicted. But I think they just I just don't think they have quite enough to get into the playoffs this season, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did. So in 11th I've gone with Norwich City. 10th place I've gone with Millwall. They had a good season last season. They've been in and around the playoffs for quite a few years now. I just think they don't quite have that quality, just to get over the line. I think maybe if they did sneak into that 6th place and get playoffs, then we might see a different story. They might be able to momentum and get up into the Premier League. But I think they're one of those teams who I wouldn't be surprised if they did finish like 7th or 8th. Just outside, which they have been doing recently, but they've got a pretty good squad. Obviously, they've got Alfie Doughty and Macaulay Langstaff, Japhet Tanganga. So they've got a pretty good squad in all fairness. So 10th place I've gone with Millwall. 9th place then I've gone with Middlesbrough. Again, they've been in and around it, and they have been in it a few times in the last few seasons. Obviously, it was probably disappointing, not to go up under Michael Carrick, because they've had such a good squads in the last few seasons. So it probably does seem like a bit of a disappointment to not go up. But they've got another experienced manager now in Rob Edwards. I know obviously he did get relegated with Luton, and then obviously got sacked with them in the Championship. But I think anyone taking over that Luton job was gonna have a tough job at the time. So there's always a chance now for Rob Edwards to sort of redeem himself, and I think he's definitely got experience at such a young age, especially taking Luton up into the Premier League as well. And they've got a good squad as well. Hayden Hackney, Tommy Conway, Finn Azaz. So they've got a good squad, which they have done in the last few seasons. And in their case, they're going to be wanting to get up now. I think from a Middlesbrough point of view, it has been long enough in the Championship, and I think it probably is time soon for them to be in the Premier League. Maybe if not this season, in the next couple. But I'm going to put Middlesbrough in 9th. 8th place then, I'm going to go with my club, Swansea City. I've always, the first few years of doing this, I always put us in the playoffs, and then I realised that we're nowhere near good enough. But I think now, maybe when a lot of our fans are expecting us to get the playoffs, I think there's still something missing, if I'm honest. It wouldn't surprise me if we snuck in at 6th, but it also wouldn't surprise me if we finished in 13th or 14th, if I'm honest. But I am going to be optimistic that we're going to finish in 8th place. We haven't done very well in pre-season, but hopefully that all well, obviously it doesn't really matter, and hopefully now we've got all our bad results out of the way and we can perform against Middlesbrough in the opening game of the season on Saturday, and hopefully get off to a good start to the season. But obviously with the investment of Modric and Snoop Dogg, obviously we brought in a few players, Galbraith, Anusa, Whittle, Santos, Bobby Wales. So we're bringing in players. It's gone a bit quietly recently. A lot of the players we've signed, were a bit earlier on in the window. But, if we can get a few more faces in, especially a centre-back and a striker before the season starts, and I think we've got, a good, well-rounded, lots of option in our squad. But yeah, I'm not really filled with too much confidence after the friendly games, but I think the business we've done is good. As I said, if we can get a striker or a centre-back. But yeah, I'm going to go with Swansea City in 8th. In 7th, then I'm going to go with West Bromwich Albion, another team who's just always in and around this area. I think they're going to narrowly miss out, but they have got some good players. Obviously, they've recently appointed Ryan Mason, who was obviously at Spurs. And yeah, they've kept most of their players, Josh Madger, Tom Fellows, Mikey Johnson. So yeah, they've got a good team at this level, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did get into the playoffs. But yeah, I think I can't. West Brom are type of team that I can't really see finishing any lower than 10th. They're just always around that, always in the top 10 without fail, really. So yeah, for that reason, I'm going to put them in 7th. 6th place, then I'm going to go with Birmingham City. I think, for Birmingham fans, it's been a long time coming. Obviously, they are back in the Championship and hoping to be back in the Premier League. I think they will finish in the top 6, just about getting to 6th place. They've got a very good manager in Chris Davis, who was linked to us at one time. And I think, yeah, he's a fantastic manager. Obviously the investment of Tom Brady, they've brought in some really good players, for a Championship side this season with Fahashi from Celtic, Damari Gray as well, got a lot of experience, and Tommy Doyle as well, who's got a lot of experience for such a young player. Jay Stansfield as well, one of their best players last season. So I think, they've got a really, really good squad and a good manager, and they've got the momentum, they've got the backing of the owners. I think Birmingham are going to have a really, really good season, in my opinion. So I'm going to put them in 6th. 5th place, then I've gone with Coventry. They've been in the playoffs, or in and around the playoffs the last few seasons, but I think, Lampard's second season, obviously they did miss out to Sunderland last season, but as I said, Lampard's second season, he's going to have more time now. They've got a really good squad with Matt Grimes and Jack Radoni, Hadji Wright. They've also signed Carl Rushworth now as another former Swans player at Coventry. He's a very, very good keeper as well. But yeah, as I said, I just think Coventry are going to be in and around the playoffs, I think, for the next few seasons. That's if they don't go up this season. Yeah, so I'm going to go with Coventry in 5th place. And in 4th place, then, I'm going to go with Southampton. A lot of people are backing them to finish top 2, which obviously really wouldn't surprise me at all. But they got a new manager, just like a lot of teams in this division do, to be honest. In Will Still, obviously it's a new job for him. It's a new division for him. So obviously we'll see how he does. I think they'll just about miss out on the top 2, if I'm being honest. But yeah, as I said, it wouldn't surprise me if they did get in there. They have got some good players, such as Tyler Diblin, who really shone for them last season in the Premier League, despite their struggles. They got Fernandez as well, Brereton Diaz, so they have got a really good squad. But yeah, I think Southampton are going to finish in 4th place. 3rd place, I'm going to go with Sheffield United. I just can't see how they don't finish in the top 6. To be completely honest with you, I think they will just about miss out on the top 2, though. I think that's just down to the quality of the two teams who I think are going to finish in the top 2. But yeah, they've got a good manager now in Ruben Selles. They've got some good players, Gustavo Harmer, Tyrese Campbell. They've also signed Louis Barry as well. So yeah, they've got a good squad. But I just feel like, yeah, as I said, I can't see a team like Sheffield United ever finishing outside of the playoffs whilst they're in the Championship, unless anything drastically changes. I can't see how they don't finish in the playoffs. So yeah, I'm going to go with Sheffield United in third place. Second place then, runners up, I'm going to go with Leicester City. I mean, I know a lot of people have been writing off Leicester. Well, not so much writing them off, but you know, out of the three relegated teams, Ipswich, Leicester, and Southampton, I think people have been, you know, tipping Leicester to struggle more so than the other two. But I just think, you know, they've got a lot of quality. They're a big club. I think they are the type who you know are going to go up and down. Well, certainly if they do come back down, I feel like they are going to go back up. They've got a good manager now in Cifuentes. They've kept, you know, a few of their good players as well, El Canous and Didi, Ayew. So, yeah, they've got a really good squad for this level. And yeah, I can see them finishing in second. I really can. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if they did miss out on automatics, but I really can't see them finishing outside the playoffs. But yeah, for me, I think Leicester are just going to be too strong to not finish in the top two. So I've put Leicester in second place. And then in first place, the title winners, I'm going to go with Ipswich. Obviously, Kieran McKenna still in charge, been there for some time. They've got, you know, some good players: Amari Hutchinson, Nathan Broadhead, Leif Davis. Yeah, they've got a very good squad. They've just signed Ashley Young as well, which I think is pretty mad. I think he's 39 or 40. But you know, they're adding experienced players, and you know, they're players who are going to know how to get promoted, and you know they've been promoted before. Most of their players have, and their managers. So you know they're going to know how to do it, and I just think they're going to be too strong. I think, you know, to come down and to keep hold of most of your players, I just think I can't see how they can't go back up, and I think they're going to be, you know, the strongest team in this division. So yeah, for me, Ipswich will win the league. So yeah, that means my playoffs would be Sheffield United in third, Southampton in fourth, Coventry in fifth, Birmingham in sixth. So that would leave Sheffield United to face Birmingham City and Southampton to face Coventry. So Sheffield United versus Birmingham, I'd back Sheffield United to win that one. And fourth versus fifth will be Southampton versus Coventry. To be honest, again, I think I'm going to back Southampton to win that, which would set up a Sheffield United versus Southampton final. And yeah, to be honest, I can see Sheffield United winning that one. I think they missed out last year, which they'll be gutted about. So I think Sheffield United will go up this season. So yeah, I've got Ipswich winning the league, Leicester going up via second place, and Sheffield United going up via the playoffs. So yeah, that's it for my championship predictions for the 2025-26 season. If you are new to the channel, if you could drop a subscription, that'd be, you know, massively appreciated. I'm on the way to 2,000 subscribers, so hopefully I can hit that soon. But yeah, I will be back very soon with my match preview ahead of the opening game against Middlesbrough away from home. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching.